How long has this technology been around?
So it's been around for about 5 months, and it's just got launched, and been able to treat thousands of patients in that period of time, and 75 to 80% of them have had dramatic results, and the other 20% have had significant improvement. Uh, and what's amazing about this is that because it comes from the entire secretome, it's able to signal for up to 3 to 4 weeks, whereas stem cells and exosomes typically is 3 to 5 days. And these peptides that everybody is using now is typically a few minutes to a few hours. That's why that people have to re-inject themselves every day or every few days. So this particular stem cell technology has the power to regenerate tissue for a lot longer period of time than anything else that exists.
Welcome to the Christian Healthy Lifestyle Podcast, where I help you navigate natural health so you can stay out of the doctor's office, age gracefully, and live a more purpose-driven life. Well, if you've been listening to the show for any length of time, you know I haven't had a guest on the show in quite some time. I've been doing a lot of solo episodes. Well, I decided to have a guest on this episode. I have two guests, in fact. I have Mick Amandi, who is CEO of regenerative, and Dr. Greg Carter, one of his partners in their business. And regenerative, Regen stands for regenerative, and they work on helping people with all kinds of ailments and injuries with stem cell therapy. But it's a new technology and an innovative method of extracting a more broad spectrum of stem cells from the placenta of newborn babies. And it's been proven to be very, very effective. And it's a little bit technical, this conversation, but I think you're going to enjoy it. It's really good. We have a great discussion about how this procedure, these methods can be used today and be far more effective than traditional stem cell therapy. So let's jump right into my conversation with Mick Amandi and Dr. Greg Carter. Dr. Greg and Mick, welcome to Christian Healthy Lifestyle.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us on your show.
Thank you, David.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you. I know you guys are doing a really important work, and that work centers around stem cells. So if you could, for the people that don't know, what are stem cells and why are they so important?
Go ahead, Mick.
Well, stem cells are the natural component of our bodies that help regenerate our bodies. And by being able to stimulate their growth, we're able to facilitate regeneration of various parts of our body that are being attacked by all the oxidative stress and the inflammation that occurs due to our exposure to toxins and the aging process.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's my opinion that we live and die at the cellular level. Groups of cells make tissue, groups of tissue make organs, groups of organs make systems, and groups of systems make up the body. So it all starts at the cellular level. So it's really important to address the cells, right? I mean, the health and the viability of our cells, correct?
That is 100%
Absolutely
correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you add to that, Dr. Greg?
Yeah. So fundamentally, between the ages of 0 and 30, Mother Nature has put into our programming language that we're going to heal at a rate that is very comfortable. In between those ages, when you're a kid, you could fall off a 3-story building and brush yourself off and bounce a couple times and go, I don't know what all these old people who are 30 are complaining about. Meanwhile,
yeah, the ancient 30-year-olds.
I'm 60, and if I stub my toe, I want to be airlifted to the ER. Okay. And the reason for that is because after the age of 30, this entire healing programming language is shut off. So what used to be Niagara Falls is now a drip out of a water faucet. And Mother Nature's like, well, I'm going to let you go to 130, but you got to eat some fruits and vegetables and don't get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. Okay. And I'm going to leave this programming language, stem cells, inside of you, but I'm not going to make it as easy to access as I did when you were a little kid. And I'm going to give you much less of them. And science figured this out by around the 1950s. And back then, I think people then, like people today, pretty much, when you get older, you kind of feel like, I think this aging thing is a mistake and I don't want to really participate in it. Okay. and so we've been seeking through science and better living through chemistry, right? How can we slow stop or reverse this aging freight train? And man has been trying to find ways to stimulate our endogenous, our internal stem cells. And in post-World War II, we did this thing called platelet-rich plasma, where we pulled our blood and spun it down, got that little gold liquid. It's full of growth factors and beneficial cytokines. And everybody's like, oh, if we just put this in the injured area, based on the components of the plasma, it should fix everything. Well, since 1956 till now, you've heard about platelet-rich plasma like 6 times on the E! Network because of the Kardashians, right? Because the juice is not worth the squeeze. In the 1970s, we created embryonic stem cells, and those things were amazing. You had a bad knee, you put them in your knee, you had a brand new knee. Well, how come we don't do them today if they're so good? Well, because they came from aborted fetal tissue, and nobody likes that. So between the 70s and the 90s, science sought to find a new way to harvest stem cells that was ethical and effective. And in 1991, we created mesenchymal stem cells. It was actually a doctor named Dr. Andrew Kaplan. And he said, hey, we don't have to go to the fetus. We could just go to the placenta. The placenta contains all of the source code to create a human, meaning between conception and 280 days later, out comes a fully functioning human being. All that source code is inside the placenta. Well, the problem is using that 1990s technology, they really couldn't get all of it. They could only get 1/6 of the placenta, and they utilized kind of a strip mining strategy to do that. It destroyed 90% of the beneficial factors and cofactors that make regeneration beneficial to the human being. Then they released it to the public, said, hey, these mesenchymal stem cells, they do exactly what embryonic stem cells did, except whereas embryonic stem cells had almost 100% success rate, MSCs had like a 40% success rate. Well, what's the problem here, Dr. Kaplan? And in 2017, Dr. Kaplan's conscience got the best of him, and he published a paper and he said, hey, I was wrong. They don't do what embryonic stem cells do. What they do is they deliver the payload from the placenta, at least the part that we can strip mine, and those are called paracrine signals or regenerative signaling factors. Now, flash forward to the 21st century.
Dr. Gray, hold that thought. I just want to back up just a little bit because I think we might be losing some people in the weeds here.
Okay.
So a stem cell is really a super important cell because it can turn into any tissue in the body, right? So our cells are constantly replacing themselves through the process of RNA duplication. But a stem cell can turn into, a hair cell, a skin cell, teeth and bone, you name it. It can turn into anything. And they're really, really active in newborns, right? So that's why you're looking at the placenta, right? Because you can get young, healthy, active stem cells that are capable of rejuvenation, powerful rejuvenation, because they have that unique property of turning into any cell in the body, correct?
Mostly correct. That was the theory that we thought with embryonic stem cells and mesenchymal stem cells. But as it turns out, mesenchymal stem cells and regenerative signaling cells don't differentiate, proliferate, and turn into you. What they do is they send the signal to David's tissue and activate David's endogenous stem cells and say, hey, you guys have been on lunch for about 12 years now. Let's clock back in and get to work and fix this guy's tennis elbow.
Okay, so there's a communication process going on.
It is exactly a communication process. And a lot of the reason that our stem cells are not as active as they might be is not just because there's less, it's not because we're older, right? It's because the signal is being drowned out by pollution, environmental pollution, like toxins in our food supply, vaccines that are overabundant in our body, just all kinds of external.
I call those health blocking factors.
That's exactly what they are. and they
Right.
create kind of a static. Like, remember TVs with antennas, and you put
Mhm.
on, NBC, ABC, or CBS, you get a bunch of static for a little while. So
Right.
instead of a nice clear picture where the stem cell goes, oh, I know exactly what to do. I've got a great signal set of instructions. It's staticky, and it can't really see the instructions, so it does nothing. And that's why our healing slows down so much.
Yeah, yeah, very good. So, what type of injuries or ailments is this therapy most beneficial for, or most best suited for?
Yeah, so regenerative signaling factors represent the latest generation in what is regenerative medicine, what most people would call stem cells. And because we're using not 1990s technology, like I said, I'm 60. The 90s was day before yesterday in my mind. It was 35 years ago, okay? So the technology today doesn't harvest one part of the source code of the placenta poorly, right? It
Hmm.
now can harvest all 6 parts and can get the entire source code or secretome that creates a human for reproduction, that man through technology is repurposed for regeneration in adults, which I'm pretty interested in, right? Because
Hmm.
my tissue doesn't want to heal like it used to. So fundamentally, regenerative signaling factors today that are harvested directly from the entire placenta are utilizing a completely different technology, an updated technology that allowed it to preserve not only the entire source code, but all the factors, cofactors, enzymes, and everything else that nature placed there for optimal regeneration. And I'll let Mick talk more about that.
All right. I'd just like to add one thing. I believe in the power of nature, but I also have a faith in God. And, it's God's design, his divine design here that we're just simply discovering, right? This technology has been around forever, since the creation. And it's incredibly complex, and we didn't invent this stuff, but we're discovering it. This divine design that God put in the human body. But anyway, go ahead, Mick. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
Well, the ability for us to now harness the full spectrum of healing from a healthy placenta is now feasible through technology. A lot of people don't know, and I didn't know, and a lot of my doctors didn't even realize that there were 6 areas of the placenta. Everybody's heard of the umbilical cord blood. Some people have heard about the Wharton's jelly, but almost nobody has really known about the amnion, the chorion, the villus placenta, and the decidua. And each of these other areas within the placenta are also responsible for turning an embryo into a human being in those 9 months. And so, by not being able to access those other areas, you're not getting full healing potential. And that's what this regenerative signaling factors, the ultra regenerative signaling factors, is able to do. And there are various aspects of the placenta. For example, the amnion has a component for inflammation. So it's a very powerful anti-inflammatory. So when the amnion is included into the party, if you will, when you're able to utilize regenerative signaling factors with the amnion component, you're able to switch healing to almost immediately from inflammation. So people that have chronic pain, that are suffering from swelling and pain, in just a matter of 24 to 72 hours, we see significant improvement in just that one area alone.
Yeah, and I'd
And
like to add, Mick, I'd like to
yep,
add that chronic inflammation is associated with just about every chronic degenerative disease,
Everything.
right?
Brother.
So it sounds like this is very useful for anti-aging, or aging gracefully, as I put it, but also for treating ailments, things that are bothering people.
yeah.
So again, I asked this earlier, but I'd like to kind of drill in. If for somebody listening saying, okay, I've been dealing with knee pain for a while, or I've got low back pain, or you name it, autoimmune, you name it. Tell me what, or tell the audience, the Natural Nation, what type of things this is best suited for, this
It's
technology.
so this what's amazing with this is that, number one, because of the way it's processed, it has no living cells in it, has no DNA, no RNA. So it's completely acellular.
Wow.
And because it's acellular, it does not fall under the FDA regulations as a biologic. And it's essentially something that's available as a protein powder that is able to be reconstituted with sterile water and injected directly into the body, as simple as a peptide. So you
Wow.
can actually inject it in your belly for systemic application at home next to your kitchen table, and you can also inject it directly into the joint area with a diabetic syringe, which is not a long needle. It's a tiny needle. Everybody's injecting themselves with it, knows about peptides, are using that every day.
Yep.
So just around that area, Dr. Greg can talk about why it's so effective for knees, shoulders, neck, back issues. And you are also able to take it intranasally, just like with a very small syringe that goes in your nose and has a little cone at the end, and it turns it into a mist, an atomized mist, in just instantly. So that
Hmm.
just like an Afrin spray, you're able to get the stem cell technology directly into your brain tissue, and it starts working immediately. And Dr. Greg can talk about why, when you're able to inject it into the local area of an injury of a joint, it works very, very effectively, and how quickly it works. Dr. Greg?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to, Dr. Gray, I definitely want to get back to that. So we'll circle back to that for sure. But I'm really curious right now as to how long have you guys been doing this? Do you do it in a clinic as well as outpatient? What brought you to this place? What discoveries have you made to get to doing what you're doing today? And how many people have been using this technology?
My
Yeah.
background is physical medicine and rehabilitation, but I stopped doing that in 2006 when I joined the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine for purely selfish reasons, David. I actually think this whole aging thing is a transcription error. Somewhere along the lines, people used to live 900 years. How come that doesn't happen today? Well,
Good question.
something has gone awry, okay?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
if I could address your inflammation question,
sure.
chronic inflammation, David, is not a natural state of man.
Yep.
Acute inflammation is, okay? So what happens is the three of us are on a hunt. We're looking for a woolly mammoth. I'm not paying attention. I trip over a rock, bang my knee. After the two of you make fun of me, Mick's gonna say, all right, sit under the tree for 3 days, dum dum, and wait for your knee to heal. And during that 3 days, that 72-hour period called acute inflammation, I'm gonna experience redness, pain, heat, and swelling. So
Which is a critical part of the healing process.
right. So this sphere of inflammation around my knee is a negative disincentive for movement. It doesn't want me to move. And the inflammation is creating a de facto biological cast because nobody told the nervous system that we exist in this miracle of the 21st century where there are planes, trains, automobiles, and air conditioning. Okay? So it is doing what it is doing with nature's natural healing mechanisms. Okay? And so during that 3 day period of stillness and rest, that's not all that's happening. That inflammation sphere is sending out a signal to the rest of the body going, hey, anybody in the continent of Greg that can fix this guy's patella, I want you to amass at the border of this inflammation. In 3 days, I'm going to drop the walls and need everybody to flood in and fix this guy's knee so it can help the other two guys hunt for the woolly mammoth. Okay? That is a bioelectrical signal that creates that flip. Okay? Well, that electrical signal is disrupted by electricity that we're surrounded by, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, fluoride, name your poison. And that's why that 3 day acute inflammation becomes subacute, and then that subacute inflammation becomes chronic. And when it goes chronic, then all of these other problems that most of man never dealt with from the dawn of time until day before yesterday start happening. Okay, so we're living with the double-edged sword of our convenient 21st century lifestyle on the one hand, but on the other hand, it is totally disrupting our natural bioelectrical field and our natural inherent healing processes. Does that answer your chronic inflammation question?
Great way of putting it. I think it was well said. I understand it much better now. Thank you. So, what does this process look like from the patient's point of view? How would they how would they start this process, and what results can they expect?
So, we have the ability now to be able to send the treatment protocol components to the patient's home. So that consists typically of a device that neutralizes all the inflammation, boosts the immune system, facilitates very rapid detoxification, and accelerates the mitochondrial function of new mitochondria and cells. And that's the use of molecular hydrogen. So we have a device that allows patients to inhale molecular hydrogen instead of drinking it. Uh, so in just 15 minutes of breathing in molecular hydrogen, it's equivalent to eating 1,000 blueberries.
Hmm.
And that antioxidant impact on the body is tremendous for being able to stop the degenerative process due to oxidative stress and inflammation. And
Hmm.
so that's the first stage of our protocol. And the second stage is the use of Ultra RSF to basically accelerate the regeneration and healing. And, to your point earlier, you asked what kind of conditions are you able to treat? Basically, everything that typically is used in regenerative medicine is used to treat things like joint pain, neck and back pain, neuropathic pain, neurodegenerative diseases, systemic conditions. Obviously, those are typically only available overseas for people like cardiovascular disease, autoimmune conditions, respiratory conditions, things of that nature. So,
Yeah.
it
Now,
allows us
let me
to.
interrupt. You use
Yeah.
a term back there that I don't understand. Ultra RSF. What is that?
Oh, I'm sorry. That's the name of the product that we use
Okay.
for the stem cell technology. It's called Ultra Regenerative Signaling Factors. That's what RSF stands for.
And it's basically like a protein powder. Is that right?
It's
It's
a
the secretome.
like yeah, Dr. Greg, you can explain.
It's the secretome of the entire placenta. It's all 6 sections. So they
Okay.
harvest the secretome of all 6 sections so that when the person introduces it to their physiology, regardless of what injury is happening, ligament, tendon, cardiovascular, autoimmune, that tissue that is specific for the secretome component will get the secretome component. So there will be
Okay.
no cross-linking. Each damaged tissue is raising up a little satellite dish going, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope.
Right. An SOS signal. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the cloud of paracrine signals are floating by. And then, like, let's say this is the cardiac tissue. Only the cardiac tissue components are going to fall out of the C-130 and paratroop down into the cardiac tissue. In other words, knee ligament regenerative signaling factors wouldn't go into the cardiac tissue because they are programmed by nature to only go where they're specifically indicated. And I did forget to mention during the acute to chronic inflammation, one of the benefits of the 21st century harvesting of regenerative signaling factors, and I think this might be one of the most important things, is the reason that we don't go from from chronic inflammation to rest and recovery is because a single physiologic molecule called the M1 macrophage is the biological nanorobot that is saying redness, pain, heat, swelling, redness, pain, heat, swelling, redness, pain, heat, swelling. And it is waiting for a signal from the central nervous system to say, I need you to flip into M2, rest and recovery. And regenerative signaling factors, because of the advanced mechanism of harvesting the entire secretome with all those factors and cofactors, has a manual override for that chronic inflammation, and manually within 24 hours shifts this M1 macrophage causing redness, pain, heat, and swelling for days, weeks, months, years, decades, wham, in 24 hours into M2. So now this chronic inflammation switch is shut off, and now your body's natural healing process, all of a sudden, it's like somebody just opened the gates, quick, run in and do something.
Excellent, excellent. So there's all kinds of communication going on at the cellular level in our bodies all the time.
Right.
Right. Hormones operate in a similar fashion. Right. We have, for instance, insulin's only going to attach itself to an insulin receptor. So it sounds like this is, very consistent with what we understand about human physiology. We've understood this for quite some time, but this sounds like relatively new technology that hasn't been used heretofore. How long has this technology been around?
So it's been around for about 5 months, and it's just got launched, and been able to treat thousands of patients in that period of time, and 75 to 80% of them have had dramatic results, and the other 20% have had significant improvement. Uh, and what's amazing about this is that because it comes from the entire secretome, it's able to signal for up to 3 to 4 weeks, whereas stem cells and exosomes typically is 3 to 5 days. And these peptides that everybody is using now is typically a few minutes to a few hours. That's why that people have to re-inject themselves every day or every few days. So this particular stem cell technology has the power to regenerate tissue for a lot longer period of time than anything else that exists.
So is that the answer to the question, why does stem cell therapy seem to work for some people and not others, or is there more to it than that?
Because it comes from 1/6 of the source code, and it's an old, outdated, obsolete technology. So if you have the 1/6 of the source code, even under perfect conditions, but you need the 1/6 from another part of the placenta, you're in the 60% of people it didn't work for.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So stem cell replacement therapy is very expensive. Sometimes people have to go out of the country to get it, but I understand it is available here domestically now. But this technology sounds like it's just far more thorough than just hoping that you got it right.
Right. So you got to remember that we decoded the human genome in 1998.
Yep.
And biology became an information technology. And when something transfers from an analog technology like the Yellow Pages to an information technology like the internet, it doubles every unit of time. And that's every 10 to 12 months in biology. So by 2015, we had eclipsed all of human knowledge of human anatomy and physiology. And then in the 11 years since 2015, our advancement in our understanding of human anatomy and physiology has grown exponentially like the knee of a curve. And people, we don't feel that, like nobody feels any different. It's just like when cell phones came. When we were kids, the idea that you could watch a movie on a device in your pocket with some George Jetson's Future, that was never going to happen. And then the iPhone showed up and you can watch Netflix on your phone. Everybody just shrugged their shoulders like, oh, yeah, it's just another day at the office. Okay. Right. Because when technology hits, right, like technologically mediated telepathy. What is that? It's called a text message, buddy. Okay? But if I told you in 1985 when I graduated from high school, hey, in 10 years we're going to be able to send our thoughts to another person anywhere in the world for nothing. Come on, bro.
Yeah.
So as far-fetched,
it's science fiction. It was stuff in the movies.
This is the state of science today. And I'm sorry, I actually have 2 patients and I got to go. And I want to thank you for hosting us, David. Mick's more than capable of taking the rest of the ball. But thank you again for your kind attention, and I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you for your time, Dr. Greg. I appreciate you being here. All right, Mick. So he's a wealth of knowledge for sure.
Yeah.
But I still have a couple of questions here. So what does the process look like? Let's say, okay, I've got an old motorcycle accident injury and my ankle is constantly inflamed. It sounds like I could be a candidate for this technology or this service, whatever you want to call it. What does that look like from the patient's or the client's point of view?
So, in cases of joint pain or localized pain, we're able to actually send the vials of the Ultra RSF directly to the patient's home. And then our nurses would instruct them on how to inject it with just a simple diabetic syringe.
Okay. All right. And then how long would they be doing that?
For something like what you just mentioned, an ankle injury, they would inject it. It'll take maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and they would inject that area with a couple of tiny injections in the area themselves, and then the Ultra RSF will kick in. It'll typically result in improvement in their inflammation and pain in a matter of 1 to 3 days. So they'll see significant improvement in that area. And then, depending on the severity of their condition, whether it's structural or not, then a second injection may be warranted 3 to 4 weeks down the road. But typically, for just minor pain issues like that, one vial of the Ultra RSF is sufficient to do its magic.
Okay. Is it expensive?
No, it's very affordable considering the cost of other stem cell technologies. It's not in the $10,000-$20,000 range. It's in the range of $1,500 to $2,500
Okay. All right. That would be per treatment?
per vial. Yeah,
Per vial. Okay. And
yeah.
one vial would be
Depending on how severe the condition is.
Yeah. Okay. All right. You mentioned neurodegenerative diseases, and that's on a lot of people's minds as we're aging these days. One of the points in the mission statement of my show is that we want to age gracefully and live a more purpose-driven life. I'm 63 years old. My dad died of Alzheimer's. My mom died with severe dementia. That's on a lot of people's mind as well as mine. What do you have any? I mean, that would be anecdotal, but do you have any stories you can share about someone with neurodegenerative disease that's been helped by this?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my doctors, Dr. Ace Choksi, he's an MD out of Cincinnati, Ohio, and in LA. I mean, in California by the high tech area there. So he's got two offices, and he's a geneticist. He's also trains a lot of doctors on peptides. He also is well known for being able to bring people from um, close to expiring back to life. And so he's got a very long history of being able to do that. In the last 6 months, he's been utilizing molecular hydrogen therapy, and very successfully. He's been getting amazing results for people with neurodegenerative conditions. And more recently, he's been utilizing it for his patients. And one patient in particular, she was doing molecular hydrogen for about a month, and then she was introduced to the Ultra RSF intranasally. After the first week, she came back for the second week, and then when she came back for the third week, her caregiver commented to Dr. Choksi that she's 80% improved. And he has an interview with her, which I'd be happy to share with you offline. But in that interview, basically, she recognized her improvements in her cognitive capabilities significantly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite amazing that in just a matter of 3 weeks, which is unheard of, and this is anecdotal, this is not promising any results, but
Right.
to see that kind of improvement is phenomenal. Another doctor of mine, Dr. Leslie Pace, out of Atlanta. She had a patient that was literally homebound for 5 years with Parkinson's. And she was doing hydrogen also, molecular hydrogen inhalation, which really neutralizes a lot of the inflammation and oxidative stress throughout the body systemically. But when she actually had a intranasal dose when I was there in the office, and 10 days later, her husband calls my doctor up and says, "Hey, I don't know what you're doing to my wife, but she's driving around town in my full-size pickup truck for the first time in 5 years.
Wow.
And whatever it is, keep doing it."
That's
She was
awesome.
she stopped doing the Parkinson's shuffle, and she was actually walking with, like foot over foot, like
Yeah.
normal, like you and
Wow.
I would.
Uh-huh.
That's
That's amazing.
incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
So
that
those
is
are
that is
cases.
life changing.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very powerful. So,
So I
how
want to
is
add to
that?
that. I want to add, Mick. I'm a firm believer in hydrogen therapy. I have a hydrogen generator at my house. It'll
Oh,
infuse
beautiful.
water,
Yeah,
and I can inhale it through a cannula. And
nice.
I'm a huge fan. In fact,
Yes.
I did an episode on that a while back with. He goes by Greg the Hydrogen Man,
Okay,
and
okay,
it was episode number. I can't think of the number right now, but I'll put it in the show notes for sure.
okay. Yeah,
And it's a really cool technology. I've personally benefited from it,
nice.
but to get quality hydrogen, it's not cheap. How do your patients, your clients, avail themselves to molecular hydrogen?
So I have another company. It's a wellness company. It's the one of the most medically uh, indicated. It's used by the most doctors in the country. It's called HydroHeal, HYDROHEAL.com. And with that, over the last several years, I've used it for my own patients. When I initially was introduced to it 2.5 years ago, when they were bringing the technology from Japan, one of my colleagues told me about it, and he had an incredible experience by just having one 30-minute session. And I didn't really believe him because, obviously being in healthcare for 35 years, I knew everything about everything. So I didn't really pay any heed. But when I tried it myself, it had a tremendous impact on me personally. And when I saw the 3,000 plus clinical studies supporting its efficacy in so many different diseases and medical conditions and metabolic conditions, I that evening I bought the company. And since that time, I've improved the technology to the point where I can actually offer a lifetime warranty, which nobody in the world does. And so
Wow.
I have a device that has a significant amount of platinum in it that ensures that people will only breathe pure hydrogen and not any kind of toxic fumes, which is
Yeah,
the
that's
biggest risk
important.
with these cheap machines that are available on the internet now.
Yep.
But it's a device that'll last you a lifetime, and
Okay.
it'll enable you to to breathe in the hydrogen at a sufficient level that you can have significant improvement in so many different medical conditions, and
Hmm.
also have the ability to make hydrogen water. We have headphones like what you're wearing right now, where it pushes the hydrogen gas through the ear canal into the brain
Wow.
tissue. So
Hmm.
we're getting amazing results for patients with uh, cognitive issues and even stroke, TBI, things of that nature, and also for hearing issues, like tinnitus and hearing loss. So and then we also have goggles for the eyes, so we have the ability to make hydrogen water baths too with it. So
Oh,
we have
really?
this
Wow.
technology. Yeah, yeah. So it's very powerful, and it's there's no risk because you'll never have to worry about the machine ever being, obsolete.
Yeah, wow, that's really cool. So, real quick, I just want to kind of explain a little bit about how molecular hydrogen works. It's a powerful antioxidant, as you said earlier, and the thing is, we don't want to stop all oxidation in the body. Some oxidation is absolutely essential for life. We're not
Yeah.
when we breathe oxygen in, we are oxygenating some of our cells. So we don't want to stop that process completely. And what molecular hydrogen does is it goes after the most harmful
Selectively.
forms
Yes.
of oxidation, and it leaves the desirable oxidation alone, which is unique in the health and wellness industry, as far as I know.
Yeah.
I don't know of any other product or service that can do that.
Yeah.
So,
And it's the only antioxidant that actually can pass through the blood-brain barrier.
yes, yes, true. Which has huge implications for neurodegenerative diseases, right?
Yeah.
A patient that came to you, they would first start off with molecular hydrogen and do that for a period of time before they actually got the ultra RSF.
So they would get both. They typically we'd prime the body. It's called priming. So we typically prime the body, neutralizing oxidative stress systemically. For joint issues, we don't use hydrogen as a primer. We typically will just have them use the other stem cell technology. But when patients are having systemic conditions, uh, or more severe conditions that involve pain, like even construction, uh, you know, uh, things that, like, say, a rotator cuff tear. That's different from, say, somebody having shoulder pain, right?
Yes.
So in a rotator cuff tear, we would use molecular hydrogen, whereas just shoulder pain, they would just basically be able to use the stem cell technology. So,
Okay. Got
we
you.
gauge what the patient's needs are based on, their evaluation. So,
I love it. So it's not a one size fits all. You actually talk to the patient and create a treatment plan that's unique to them. So I really
yes.
think that's great. That's
Yes.
awesome.
We have doctors that, Dr. Joshua Hellman, he's a double board certified doctor from Harvard, and he's also the medical director of Alzheimer Treatment Centers of America. He is our neurodegenerative doctor that, loves the molecular hydrogen. He's getting incredible results with it, and also the Ultra RSF.
Hmm.
And Dr. Ace Choksi, I mentioned also before.
All right. So here's the last question I have for you, Mick, and that is, well, maybe close to the last. Is this product or service is it approved by the FDA, or is that even necessary?
So this product falls under Section 361 of the FDA regulations for an acellular minimally manipulated product.
Okay.
So it's acellular, so it does not have any biologics or RNA or DNA in it. So it's not considered biologic. Typically, stem cells and exosomes fall under Section 351 of the FDA regulations, and that's the area that has all the restrictions and bans in the United States.
Okay. All right. So it doesn't fall into that category.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct.
Right.
So it can be provided for research and clinical use.
Okay. Excellent. Okay. Very good. All right. So what would you like our listeners to take away from this conversation? What's the most important thing you want them to remember?
I want them to understand that there is hope for their conditions, that their doctors have said that there's nothing else they can do, that there is hope now, and we have the solution for them. And we'll basically are offering a $300 complimentary consultation for anybody that is in need of a solution for their pain or their condition, that they want a doctor that has better options for them.
Okay. And where are you located?
We're located in Orlando.
Okay.
We have two locations in Orlando, North and South Orlando, but we provide telehealth nationally. Our doctors are located in different states throughout the United States, including Orlando. So we
Okay.
have a footprint to be able to help anybody literally anywhere in the world.
Okay. All right. Very good. And what's your website if people want to get a hold of you?
It's Regen MDs. For Regen, obviously standing for regenerative. So REGENMDS.com.
regenmds.com. All
Yes.
right. Very good. Well, thank you, Mick. It was a pleasure speaking with you. I wish you well.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you so much for your insights.
You're welcome. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. If you or somebody you know is considering stem cell therapy, I think this technology is something that's worth looking into. Again, Mick's website is regenmds.com, regenmds.com. If you're enjoying this podcast and you're finding value here, would you help me get the word out? The number one way people find out about a podcast is a friend tells them about it. I would also appreciate leaving me a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. That's it for now. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you. Go out there and live abundantly. Be blessed.